All right, we are recording. This is unexpected, everybody. There's been a lot of issues with StreamYard. This is going to be the most awkward start to a podcast, and we're both kind of caught off guard. But good afternoon. I got my buddy Smitty here. Smitty is a great space host that covers a range of topics. Also has some pretty great series, specifically his Agree to Disagree series on Tuesdays and Thursday mornings. Smitty, before I throw in my little plugs here, you want to let us know a little bit about that series you got and anything else you got cooking?
Yeah, thanks for having me on, Mike. Always great to chat with you. Always have good conversations, whether it be here on the stream or in spaces. Become one of the real ones here on this the interwebs, if you will. But yeah, I have do a Tuesday and Thursday morning space called Agree to Disagree. Encompasses politics, news, even sports. Really try to target three main storylines, topics where we cover those in depth, have a really good dialogue. But the whole synopsis, and I do this with Heather, my main partner, but then also Land of Illusion and OG Texas Outlaw. It's kind of the group that we're running with. And sometimes we'll do weekend spaces if there's like some pertinent events that are newsworthy that we want and that warrant coverages. But really the whole premise is where we can come together and we can have civil discourse and topic, discussion, where obviously, we're in a political climate where it's so tribal and it's just getting worse. So we just try to have civil discourse, conversation, intellectually, where, if we can't come to an agreement, if people can't come to agree on certain things, then respectfully we'll agree to disagree. And we can still have respectful dialogue, friendships, everything like that. And it's been well received. So that's been quite exciting. I've been doing it for about a month and a half now and continuing to get garner more interest, growth, and momentum. So really excited for that. Then I also do probably going to hone in a little bit more focused on when and how I do spaces. Going to be targeting like the Sunday evening time frame, probably around 8 o'clock Central PM. Going to be more on topical spaces where I'll partner with like Money Penny, some other special host guests, more on topical things, and we'll get into all sorts of variety of issues, whether it be human conscientiousness. I'm going to be focusing on one here coming up, I think, on Polymarket in Kilcha. The betting apps right now, where you can put odds on, I'm going to bet 60 cents, it goes in 1 cent to 99 cents. But Polymarket, they're making politics a gambling feast. And so much money is being traded off of whatever you can derive of what's the probability that Trump's going to do this? What's the probability that the Strait of Hormuz is going to open? What's the probability of whether somebody ties their shoe tomorrow with their left hand or something? Odds get created, and I think it warrants a good deep dive on it because, Donald Trump Jr. happens to serve on the board of directors on both Polymarket and Kilcha. And those are two of the biggest sites there. Not to say that there's anything wrong with that. It's all legal above surface, but I do think it is pretty convenient that this has become quite mainstream. And it seems like me and you have kind of coined that term. Everything is fake and gay of late. It does. It just, is this reality? Is this our reality? Are we living in it? Really?
I know.
I don't know.
It's unbelievable, man. Well, I mean, I appreciate that, Smitty. I do want to make sure that people can follow you on X, and that's at Smitty. It's at Smitty CPS01 on X. Make sure you give Smitty a follow. Definitely check out his spaces. I personally go to the agree to disagree every Tuesday and Thursday, and kind of a fly on the wall while I'm at work. So it's a great space for everyone to see here diverging opinions, some commonality. It's pretty great. But I would also appreciate y'all. Please help me out with the algorithm on YouTube. It is absolutely crushing the channel now. I was doing pretty good, and then Smitty, they changed the algo like to be likes driven. So I'd ask everyone that watches the video, please subscribe, like, share, comment. It would really help get this channel some visibility. Would also ask for you to follow me on X at MMBFY pod. So with all that out of the way, Smitty boy, let's go ahead and get into it. I know we wanted to talk about introspection. We've had, our offline conversations, like you were saying, like, what the hell's going on with this reality? Like, people are like taking positions and splitting apart. It's like living through Obama, living through Trump 1 and COVID all over again, right? It's like this cycle of like growing iterative forms of division. And it, like you said, like you and me were talking about introspection, like when you kind of like look in and think like, what am I doing wrong? Like, why is this happening? You want to kind of carry us through like what sparked that kind of like meditation that you kind of went into with introspection?
So that whole combo kind of derived, even how I post on X anymore, I wake up in the morning, my outlet when I'm not here online or whatever, I'll listen to music. And a lot of it, I kind of rediscovered album art in a sense. I know it's in the digital format, but if I find a unique album art cover that I like, I'll try to match that with a quote that resonates with me that particular morning. And I find that when I do that, it's done 100% for introspectiveness. If it resonates with me, if it's a thought-provoking quote, I always try to take that into account. It's just one of those further things that kind of hold myself accountable. But I do that in life in general. That's just my nature. I'm always questioning I'm my own worst critic. A lot of people probably are that same way or in a similar manner. But I'm always trying to reevaluate. Hey, could I have done things differently? On the surface level of life, there's things that I'm proud the way I handle them. That, there could be some things that could I have done things differently? Of course. But I try to find that deep-seated introspection to where I can at least come to a good conclusion where it's acceptable. And, striving myself moving forward to, not do certain things. Nobody's perfect by any means.
Right.
But I find if you do take that time to get that introspection point of view, it's just continued growth and it never stops.
Right. Yeah, I agree. I mean, like one thing that, I think a lot of us in America right now, sadly, a lot more of us than we even can fathom are struggling right now. Right. Like whether it's keeping a job, putting food on the table, the increased cost of living in general, it's hard, right? And then you go to the you or the me, right? Like yourself. It's like, yeah, you have your job and you're like, man, I effing hate, like this is kind of like where I'm at, and I'm like, man, I kind of hate this job now. Like I'm looking for something else. Why am I stuck here? And I don't want to do this. I want to do, you know what I mean? Like you start bitching about how things are just so rough. And then I kind of find myself like being given signs at times. Like I'll be out of the grocery store with my wife and we'll see a family of like, our cart's pretty full, 2 people. We're like shitting bricks because, getting to the register, seeing what those groceries are going to cost for the week. But then I see a husband and a wife with 2 young children, 2 kids under the age of 6. Kids are running around. They got the little mini shopping cart. And I look at their cart and they've been with us the whole way and they got 1/3 the groceries we do. And then I think, well, I can afford groceries. I don't even have to think about it. Like I'm privileged in that sense where I can buy what I need to buy for my home, and then damn, I have a fairly well-paying job, and my wife right now can focus on other things, and we're on one income, and then I kind of say, man, you're being petty, and a lot of us do this. I think it's just kind of like a part of like the American condition right now, like where
I,
we're, go
yeah,
ahead.
I 100% agree with that. A lot of conversation and topic discussion here in spaces, at least particularly mine, has devolved into not only political ideologies, and you have, tribalism within the right um, or independence,
Yeah.
but there's tremendous tribalism between generations. You have the boomers, or the latter part of Gen X, that's roll your sleeves up, go get two jobs, make you earn it. Don't expect things handed to you, which, yes, that's warranted. That's their lived experience. But then I talked to some younger generations, Gen Z in particular, and I don't think the older generations really appreciate or really understand the struggle, because they just look at it at the surface level, and they see people that just want to be influencer, quote unquote influencers. They there is I get my sometimes they have the sense of entitlement or the immediacy. They want immediate accolades. The minute
Yep.
they do a good job, they want to be the CEO. They want to be the head cheese in charge. But there's a lot of people that are struggling. If you just look at facts, the overwhelming majority of, I just saw a news story the other day, 25 million kids or people under the age of 35 are still living with their parents now. Something that else just came out. There's more women in the workforce than men now.
Wow.
This just came out hot off the press. If
Yeah,
you
I
look
saw another article where, to that vein, that there's 1 million less people actively pursuing. So like 1 million people fell off the unemployment statistics or the unemployed statistics because 1 million people have not, have not applied for jobs anymore. Like people are quitting.
yeah, if you
Like
look at like active payrolls, if you look at just the redundancy numbers of it, we're at a lower total employer population than even at the onset of COVID. So
employers, lower quantity of employers.
there's lower workers in the workforce than even at the COVID period.
Okay,
So
workers. Okay,
yeah,
okay,
so
gotcha.
from a static statistics point of view, this is the second lowest historically. You have the Great Depression. You
Wow.
have now,
Second to the Great Depression right now?
second to the Great
Over
Depression,
07, 08? This is greater?
greater than COVID. I think
Wow.
that the total worker population is 105 million in the workforce right now. So I mean, when I bring up those things, and you start looking, 40% of the workforce is between the ages of 45 and 55 too. 45% of the workforce
45 to 55 is 45%?
of the workforce currently.
Wow. Holy shit.
So when I mention these things, and then you want to take a Gen Z, somebody that's 20 something, 25-year-old, just getting their start in their career, and you look at the hurdles and the challenges, the cost of home ownership, the cost of food, the cost of lodging, everything, clothes. This is another thing. Taxes exceeds the cost of living. This came out last Thursday. We did a long discussion in the agree to disagree spaces. Taxes exceed cost of goods currently. We pay $106 trillion in taxes. where the collective or the aggregate cost to for cost of goods is 105 trillion.
Trillion or billion?
Trillion.
What? 106 trillion?
100. Yeah, I believe that's the case. It
That's
could
including derivatives?
It could be billions. I'm just pulling this off the top of my head. This is
No, that's fine.
that we covered.
No,
But
that's totally fine.
but
Yeah.
the entire point of it is just, like I said, the it's so much more difficult for the younger generation to achieve home ownership. That there's a reason why they are waiting to get married, to try to have children, to do all this stuff. And everybody's like, no, you want to conceive, have more kids, do this. But the reality is a lot of people, they don't have the financial wherewithal to do it. And that's where I'm trying to get like that introspection. And, yes, every generation has their problems, their challenges, their stuff that they have to overcome. But I hate getting into the topic. Well, back in my generation, we had to walk uphill both ways, and you guys have it so easy now.
Yeah.
There's always new things that people have to overcome, and it's I think it's all relative in the finite.
I agree. I mean, I look at myself. Like I used to get so upset about not being a homeowner. I'm not a homeowner. I'm 39, and I do okay, right? But then I go out there and I look at. We were looking at homes, and at 3 years ago, 2023. Every time we go, we put an offer. Then some person would come with cash and buy the house, and it was always some buying a house from a boomer, and the boomer didn't want to sell it to first-time home buyers, so they would sell it to some other boomers from California, and they take the cash. There's just and you're like, what the hell is this world I'm living in, right? Like what is this? This is not the country I grew up in. Like I can't afford anything, and at the same time, you got to kind of say, well, these are the cards I'm dealt. What do I do to improve my circumstances to be able to afford a home that I want, right? Because the homes that I'm talking about are in the, let's just say, the South Denver area of Colorado, and Smitty, dude, it's like $650K, which is already crazy, right?
Yeah.
It's $650 in a nice suburb, about 25-30 minutes south of Denver proper, right? The city center. Split level, old school 1960s home, maybe early 70s, original contractor grade, amenities, countertops, etc., cabinetry, right? $650. Now you don't know how the pipes are. You don't know how functional things are. You buy the house, you're going to have to put a couple other $100K into the house. So really, the entry to buy a decent home that's in turnkey condition, right? You're looking at $850,000-$900,000. And so the only thing that I've come up with is, what do I do to increase how much money I make? Obviously, when you're working a 9 to 5, which so many people are striving to do, because people feel hopeless going into small business, especially after what happened in COVID. It just destroyed small business in America. Brick and mortar, right? Mom and pops, all totally shattered. So you got to think of how do I make money, right? In my particular situation, and another part when it goes to introspection is humility. You can never think that you're better than a job, right? In my opinion, this is my opinion, but I don't view myself as higher or elevated to the point I can't go be a ditch digger. I did that during grad school. I was digging ditches for telecom, but service industry, trades, for the young folks out there that are going and getting these degrees, they're getting the coding degree, the programming degrees, then they're coming into the workforce. And as they come into the workforce in 2025, 26, 27, they're coming in when entry-level engineering positions are being phased out for AI. AI has the capability to do a lot of those tasks that a entry level engineer or a project coordinator or like a business analyst position would do, right? So these are, I'm talking about like 22 to 25-year-old people, and they're being phased out of work because of AI. So like, if I were to give any advice, because I was in this position too, when I was coming out of like in grad school, this was like 11, 12 years ago. It was coming right out of the last recession, right? Like 2014, 2015 is where things were starting to get a little brighter. You know what I mean? After the whole 07, 08, housing crash. But like, I, instead of twiddling my thumbs and applying for, like you said, CEO positions, expecting to come out of college and make $300,000 a year, I bit the bullet and I was making $600 a week ditch digging, with the hombres. And people need to just have humility and understand that everything is really hard in life as it is. But the way we're going, the trajectory that civilization as a whole is going, and specifically civilization here in America is going, unfortunately, you have to increase your output to get what even you and me got, Smitty, 10 years ago.
So let me put some, I mentioned this earlier. This is another news story.
Okay.
The average American now deems that they need $2.1 million to retire comfortably. The people that are wanting to retire, women now hold more payroll jobs than men in the United States. That's only happened twice before, briefly during the Great Recession, and again just before COVID. And then the last statistic that I was alluding to, 43% of Americans aged 34 to 44 employed by private companies do not have a retirement plan in place, as well as 41% of those 45 to 54 years old, and 40% of U.S. workers who are 55 to 65.
That's insane. Like, I don't want to out where I work.
Or they don't have a retirement plan in place. So when we were talking about how people are struggling, when you don't, 40% of U.S. workers who are 55 to 65 don't have a retirement plan. You start putting that in perspective of who's living, what's the percentage of people living paycheck to paycheck and don't have a net saving in the case of emergencies. It's just like, these are numbers that, like, you fall off the cliff if something really catastrophic happens.
Oh yeah. I mean, on that point, I'll just say a business I'm very familiar with that employs people, they just dropped their retirement plans. They're no longer offered. They'll honor what you've accrued, but they are no longer offering them. And we're talking a business that's over 100,000 employees. There ain't no small business, and no more retirement plans. 401ks still there. Strongly advise everyone to at least, put in as much as they match. I mean, that's just me, not financial advice, just a suggestion.
Well, if you think about even retirement plans that companies offered 10, 15 years ago, like the standard match was 6%, and it's downgraded to 4% now.
Yeah, 4%.
Now most companies are 3% or less even. And it takes you 5 years to be vested? I don't know. I mean, each plan is differently, but a percentage point pushed down.
It's huge. It's compounding. It's huge.
Compounding, insurability, the cost of healthcare, all that other stuff. Everything just kind of, like you said, it compounds. The business climate is getting to be a lot more challenging. Working in the field that I do, everything that's happening in the geopolitical front doesn't seem like there's an end in sight there. So, shipping containers are going to be a lot more expensive to bring over here to the United States. That's just going to continue to drive up freight rates here to get things. Product availability is going to become a little bit more cumbersome. I mean, historically, if you look at the price of eggs and you look at cost of retail gas, those are the two or the cost of milk. Those three things historically are what drive people's appetite for voting or participating in their civic duty of doing in the political process.
Right.
But I don't only want to talk about politics. It's what is their appetite for? Are things good or are they not?
Yeah. And they're not great, and like I always think about, I'm not old. We're not old or anything, but I do think about the youth, man. I mean, like I got younger cousins, I got nieces, you know what I mean? And like what kind of world are they going to inherit? And like we all just bitch about how bad it is, but it's in consequence to the complacency.
Well, wouldn't you say like some introspective thought? I think me and you were both encouraged to get degrees. I got my advanced degree. I was fortunate enough to have an employer at the time that actually paid for it, and I took advantage of it. I think that type of perk is pretty hard to come by in the workforce today.
Yeah, it is.
Or they only pay they'll reimburse maybe 50% of the cost. I don't know.
A lot of them, they just do a fixed price. They just I've seen, in my corporate travels, like it ranged from full coverage in a good company, and another, relatively reputable business will only offer a 5K cap. So like your grad program, they'll cover per semester up to 5,000 per semester. But with what tuition costs today, that's like what?
25%?
25, 33%. Exactly. That's what I was going to say. Like,
yeah.
I mean, so you're still out of pocket. You're still going into student loans, and the boomers over here bitching at you like, you own your loans. Those are on you. You need to pay for your loans. Why'd you take them? It's like, dude, like people need to, like in particular fields like finance, technology, you kind of have to go get certifications and a master's degree. I'm sorry. Like depending on how high of a ceiling you expect to get to, if you're okay working and making median income salary range, then you don't need all that. But like if you have aspirations and like you want to get into the quote unquote 6-figure club, and let me tell you, on the lower end of the 6-figure club, we're still effing struggle right now for most people, especially if you have kids. It's even worse. I can't imagine. And here's another thing though that I think about now, and I've been doing some work on this since we're talking on the financial stuff, Smitty, is like I kind of always had like I wasn't raised with really financially savvy parents. Like they just kind of like did really well and blew it whenever they had it, never put any aside. And then, when it came down to it, it hurt them really badly, I'll say, to the point I had to kind of step in and make sacrifices and take care of my parents because that's what you're supposed to do and you should do. Right. But what I kind of realized is you cannot live anymore in 2026 thinking you can afford everything. And what I mean by that is like, yes, you can get approved for a loan on a very expensive car. Yes, you can have a $60,000 credit line across 3 credit cards, right? Should you go to the $500 dinner? No, you shouldn't. You should have some restraint. This is kind of like, and I've already crossed that bridge. I already effed myself. I'm swimming through it. And I look at the decisions I made and I don't regret them because in the moment I had joy, I made memories and I had a good time. And I lived in a more material mindset, which I don't really live in anymore. Been humbled to my knees, to be honest with you. But I take it with stride and I'm happy for it. Truly, I am. I'm happy I learned that lesson now and not when I was my parents' age, right? So like if anyone that's younger, 30, 25 that listens to this, just because you get lucky enough, and it is luck to land a good high-paying salary 9-to-5 position, save your money. If you got debt, pay your debt. Don't delay. You don't know how long the dollar is going to maintain its value. You know, pay your debts first. Pay if you have student loans, pay those first before you think of investments. You know, always put 5 to 10% aside as a safe measure into a, high yield savings account just to have that, at least that. But I mean, Smitty, like, isn't that a major issue now? Don't we have like a collective $1 trillion of credit card debt, not
Yeah,
including car loans, mortgages, like
yeah, and
we're
I
into,
think there's kind of a shift in strategy and the tactical, especially applicable to the younger generation and parents of kids coming into age. There is definitely a reevaluation. And when you look at what a college degree meant for me and you when we graduated during that time, that there's a lot of equity built into that. Like you were basically, if you get your college degree, you're going to write your own ticket. It didn't even necessarily have to be focused on like a technical degree,
right.
a law degree, a medical degree. If you got an MBA, you got a business degree, you pretty much could write your own ticket.
Yeah.
Now I see that shift being changed more and focused, especially with the obviously ongoing integration with AI. I would recommend any kid now to get into the trades.
Yeah.
I would recommend to any parent to encourage their kids to get into a trade. Diesel technician. If you go to a trade school for a couple years, you learn how to diagnose a Class 8 heavy duty truck, and you can learn how to change tires, grease the moving parts on that stuff. Within a couple years, you're going to buy your own tools, but you're going to be able to command a $250,000 salary. You could go work at any dealership, pretty much name your price. AI is not taking over vehicle maintenance anytime soon. It requires, pre-trip inspections, HVAC. Do something that's not going to require where AI is not going to completely overtake. We kind of chastised the Democrats a couple, 3-4 years ago when I can't remember who it was where he said, learn to code.
Yeah.
Well, the ones that are wise, and over the course, I have a lot of friends that have been in the blue collar where they've come up, they have their own businesses now. And you know what? Those are some of the most well-to-do people. They have the $100,000 truck. They don't have very, very limited debt. They run their own businesses now, and if they've done it smart, they don't have to work that much. They just have to manage it.
Right.
And obviously, that's the ideal. You work your butt off, your 20s through your early 30s, but then you can actually then start your own business. And if it's in a trade that is kind of recession proof, you don't have to concern yourself. Yeah, you learn the jack of running your own business. And, I wish schools and universities would do a better job of that. But most of that learning is just putting your feet in the fire and doing it. You learn the tax advantages. You hire good people to manage your business if you're doing it wisely. And you can have some of that passive income if, you can still have your own career and everything. But if you want to do it pragmatically, my advice is to get into the trades now. Find something that isn't recession proof and that you look here over the next 10, 15, 20 years, AI is not going to be able to touch it because it's going to require the manual labor aspect of it.
I agree. I actually totally agree. I was saying the same thing. I think we're in lockstep on that.
I mean, the value of a college degree now is really diminished.
It's nothing. You literally just get a college degree today to go get a higher, a graduate level or higher degree.
And I mean, colleges, most universities now, they become indoctrination camps too because of some of the garbage that they spew. Um, right, wrong, and different.
Liberal art school,
Liberal
right?
arts school that pretty much names that name. It's self-explanatory now.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. My undergrad, I was in a liberal arts state school, and then when it came to grad school, I actually, I was, I mean, I did pretty good on the GMAT, so I was able to kind of have choices. I didn't leave the state. I found another state school that I did my research, and very conservative school, like the faculty, everything. And let me tell you, the difference between going to a limp wristed liberal arts school and a proper conservative based education system type of school, dude, night and day. I mean, like, we read, I had a professor who had us read Cass Sunstein's book, Nudge. I don't know if you're familiar with that. It's basically he's talking about the art of bureaucracy and how to keep pushing and pushing and pushing to get policies that you want to have passed. It's disgusting. But we read that book from the perspective, like from a conservatist perspective. Like, look at what this is. This is increasing bureaucracy size. This is increasing policy making. This is taking the legislative power of policy creation from the legislature and putting it in the hands of the ABC bureaucracy. And that's kind of the difference too. I've noticed too is like you can still get good education. It still exists in America, of course. It's just a matter of, like you said, if you don't go into the trades, you got to kind of think about what's going to be a job that's going to linger around for a while, right? To your point. And then if you decide college is the route, look at the school, look into the history of the school, look and see if there's any crazy articles that have come out, like some school, controversies. Go check all that stuff out. See how the school was formed, and then you could possibly still get a decent education. So I don't want to like completely. I'm not pushing back on you because I totally agree that the future is service and trades. I mean, the business my wife and me are working on is a commercial cleaning company. I'll openly say that. I don't care. Um, I don't care about sweeping, mopping, vacuuming, and wiping things down and taking trash. I don't care. I don't think anyone should. You're not anyone special. We're all just people. Um, and have some humility. That's like on the staying to the topic of like being of introspection. The greatest, and maybe you could share one with the audience too, Smitty. But like for me, the greatest introspective lesson I learned was to get past my arrogance and my vanity. And when I say vanity, just vanity of lifestyle, materialism, right?
I'd agree with that too.
And then learning humility. And boy, when you learn that lesson, you have to every day remind yourself that lesson exists 24/7, 365, because arrogance and vanity can slide right back in so quickly. And it's a active exercise of keeping yourself consistent, not thinking you're better than anybody. Like you said, I could be hanging out with a blue collar guy or a suit and tie. I don't care. I don't look at people that way anymore. I really don't, and I really try not to. When I slip, I try not to. But that lesson that I've kind of taught myself that I learn every day, because it's every day is a lesson, has had the greatest impact on my life.
Yeah, I mean, in my career, I've been in sales, marketing, and whatever. But I've also been in trucking, transportation, and so being able to navigate. And this is self-taught. And yes, I've had mentors and people that have helped me along the way, obviously, and I was greatly appreciative of that. But being able to talk to a truck driver, just the same, where I could get on their level, and to where I could go and talk to the CEO and talk on their level, and they treat me with the respect and dignity, and I share that same respect and dignity to them. talking to a mechanic doesn't matter over matters. Uh, if I can talk on their level and they can relate to where they didn't, I would go in a maintenance shop at a trucking company and be able to talk to the guy that's changing out tires all the time. Hey, what matters? What's important to you? And be able to hear them. But then if I could convey that to here's what your people are saying. If you were to buy this product or service that I'm trying to promote, can it make your worker's life easier? What I never did is I never treated somebody like a number or an inconvenience. Never wanted to treat them like I was above them just because I'm in sales or because you're just the lowly tire changer
Yeah,
at the shop. No, they're the ones that they make shit happen.
exactly. Exactly. I totally agree. Smitty, I want to ask you one question before we take this to the end here. Um, if you're willing to share, what is a life lesson you've learned that you're willing to share for the audience, where you had to really dig in deep for yourself into yourself and address it and come out of it better? Do you have something you can, a lesson on introspection you can share with the audience?
One that I don't necessarily typically like to get into, but I would say going through there's a period of point in life I was going through a divorce. We were trying to have a second kid at the time. Had issues. I sacrificed my career for the betterment of hers. Um, just a lot of stuff compounding, but that led to basically the fallout of my marriage. Um, unfortunately happens, but being able to navigate that in its entirety and learning about humans in general, human behavior characteristics, and that's inclusive of, like I said, introspection of my own account. That changed me, 100% changed me. Um, you know, there's a period in time where I prided myself. I lived through my family. That's all I mattered. I lost myself in that. Uh, when you lose yourself in something else, then your individualism becomes clouded. So maintaining your individuality, keeping what's important to you still important, and being able to have the internal drive to continue to see that through. Um, it's a long time life lesson. I still try to continue to do better at certain things, but yeah, I mean, being able to start reading people. I do have an innate ability to read people well. Um, I've been told that in several circumstances and throughout my experiences in life. But maybe that's a part of my salesmanship is being able to read a room. So even if it's, if we're doing and hosting a space, sometimes I can try to navigate and lead the conversation flow a bit differently. Or you have people that are agitators that want to get hostile and argumentative, I can kind of ease things back in there and just being able to navigate that stuff.
Hey man, I appreciate you sharing that.
You've been in enough of my spaces. You've been in some very intense conversations where
I have.
the conversation flow can, it could go off the rails at any given time. But to be able to navigate that through just trying to read the room, and it may be something as subtle as breaking up the conversation flow with some levity, making somebody laugh, which I always try to do. But it can disrupt their thought process to where, they want to be in attack mode. And you know what? If I can get them in a moment of laughter, and then all of a sudden they redirect, and okay, you can keep the conversation on topic, keep it respectful, and that's just my innate ability to read a room, more or less.
Hell of a skill, man. Definitely a hell of a skill. Smitty, I really appreciate this, man. I appreciate you sharing that. I mean, we're all living through this roller coaster of a life, and we are all dealing with BS every day. No one is living a perfect life. Don't be fooled. But always reflect on yourself, on your circumstance. Ask yourself questions. Why did this happen? Where did it come from? How? And don't do it in a pouty way. Try to find solutions,
You
and
know,
you'll grow
my
from it.
one of the things that I try to adhere to too is I never assumed what anybody has going on in their personal life.
Smart.
As they say, assume makes an ass out of you and me.
Yeah.
And some people tend to forget or lose light of that. So if you go into go into any conversation flow that you have, never making the assumption of what somebody has going on in their personal life, at least being able to listen to them, finding out, remembering something that's personal to them. That way they're not just an individual. They're not a profile pic in spaces, for that matter. In real life in general too. Knowing somebody, hey, I know your kid's interested in baseball. How's the season looking? Taking a little 2 extra seconds or 30 seconds to ask them, how are you doing?
Mm-hmm.
That makes a huge difference in how people are treated and how you're going to be treated.
Totally. One thing I do, like, things that, people get real stressed out at work, and, you're running through 500 projects. Everyone's discombobulated. But the one thing I like to do is when I'm working with people that I could tell are really stressed, or just in general, honestly, in general, I do this. But like if I get a deliverable from somebody, I'm like, hey, thank you so much. I appreciate you. When you like just that alone, I've seen, not like because it's me saying it, right? But just like showing compassion, man. Showing like a sense of like empathy and care for people. It's so lost on us, man.
Yeah,
I mean,
just to be able to personify anybody's individuality and single them out instead of treating them like a widget.
exactly. Yeah. It's
And I
remarkable.
think introspection absolutely 100% keeps me humbled, grounded. It gives me that perspective to where I never want to treat somebody that I'm above them, below
Exactly.
them. We all put our shoes on the same way, unless you're kind of, unless you don't. But 99% of the people that you put your shoes and socks on the same way. That's human. And we got to keep that in perspective as far as everybody, their humanity in general.
I agree. I agree totally. Smitty, I appreciate you, man. Thank you so much. Everybody, make sure you follow Smitty at Smitty C. Sorry, it is at Smitty CPS01.
At
Make sure.
SMITHCPS01. There it is.
Boom. That. Go there. Follow him. Check out the spaces. Check out the Agree to Disagree. Follow Smitty so you can find out what he's cooking on the Sunday series. He's planning to start launching pretty soon. Make sure to subscribe to the channel. Like is the most important thing. I'd rather you like the videos than even subscribe, because then we can get some views. So like, subscribe, comment, share, show some love. Appreciate all of you that tune in. Smitty, always appreciate you, my dear friend. Thanks for your time. And I'm sure I'll catch you on a space here real soon, and we'll do another one in the near future, brother.
Appreciate you, Mike. Always a great time cutting it up with you here on your pod.
God bless, man. I appreciate it. All right, everybody. Have a great rest of your day, and catch you on the next one. Take care.